So yeah, so on contact, what we're looking for is to see an element of preparation in the direction of travel. So your intention is to travel this way, right? So everything about your preparation prior to striking the floor needs to be orientated towards that direction. So what you can see is there's a bit of a reverse C position going on here. Now, I would like to see this trunk angled slightly more towards the intended direction of travel. And that's going to help direct your forces that way, but it's also going to make you more prepared for what's to come. And then the second thing I'm looking at is what's happening at the hip. So one hip is extending down into the floor, but this hip here is actually lagging behind and down. And what we want to see is that knee and hip punching up and forwards. And what that does is it creates a line of stability and an ability to generate more force into the floor if this pelvis is driving up and out in the direction of travel. So you end up with a pelvis that looks like this, and that's what we call hip lock. So the more extension you can get down into the floor with trunk preparation in that direction, combined with early preparation and driving this free hip in the direction of travel, will allow you to change direction and displace yourself sideways more easily. Prior to the cut, you know that your foot is going to make contact in this area here. So actively you want to be attacking down and into that space. Now, everything else about you needs to be thinking about trying to drive into the free space. So how much separation can you create between this area here? And it's really that idea that once you make that penultimate step and you strike the floor with your next foot, your final contact, how quickly can you switch your penultimate step, or in this instance, this free leg here, how quickly can you punch it into the space? And I've got a really nice video for you to look at that. So here's an example of a very elite athlete doing what we call a speed cut. So watch the timing of the push. So I talked about the penultimate leg, right? So the penultimate contact is this contact here, this left leg, and it almost pushes him with energy into the cut. But you see how quickly it brings himself back forwards. So he pushes himself with momentum into the right-sided cut, so with this leg down here. But by the time that he's actually made full support contact now, watch and the thing to look at here is look how prepared this thigh is. So by generating extension and exploding down into the floor with this wide foot contact here, which is way outside his base of support, he's also able to generate extra energy by punching and preparing this thigh up. And that's what we call hip lock, right? The ability to extend one leg down or one hip down and punch the other thigh up. Now, this is his good side. Now, if we go back to, let's go to here and get out of that and watch this. Okay, let's watch the exact same thing, but watch it on the other side. And you'll see a subtle difference, but an important difference. So he's going to push himself into the cut with his penultimate step. But as he makes contact, full support contact, look at where the thigh is. Can you see that difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this resembles you a little bit. This resembles the lagging leg that actually has to try and get up here. Now, there's two reasons that this is very important. Number one is that the higher and more elevated you can keep this free hip, the more force you generate into the floor, which obviously has an impact on how much displacement you generate. But two, if that free leg is up into a position where it's elevated and in hip lock, it means that instead of taking time now to get across the body and get down to the floor, it's already in a position where it's able to strike down and back into the floor because you've done the work early, and that's going to enhance your displacement in the direction you want to travel. So there's two reasons to it, and those are the two main reasons.
On this side, it looks more like a curve.
Correct, exactly that, and it's because of what the free leg is doing, the timing of the free leg, to be able to punch through into hip lock and drive back into the floor.
But is this because he has any physical
Yes.
weaknesses on the left side.
Exactly. So this
Stiffness.
guy's going through a rehab on his left hand side,
Yeah.
and the coordination isn't quite there. So what the athlete does in particular in this instance is, if we're saying punching this thigh up into this direction really aggressively enhances force down into this leg, well, you better be able to tolerate it on that leg. So a slight lag behind of that hip coming through and creating that almost that tension and taking slack out of the system. If you don't have the force qualities in that limb, then you're going to lag behind slightly. So it's a really surefire way, or a really nice sign of understanding, okay, do we need to do more work to tolerate force in that limb?
And what I see here or what I saw on the other side is like he is putting his foot underneath his body, or let's say in this case the left side. When he accelerates, it's not like he's reaching for a bigger step on the left side on the top video.
Exactly. And it's so, you can't say it's ever one thing, right? It's not, that's pretty reductionist and silly. But if you have better force qualities on one leg versus the other leg, you're going to be able to tolerate the increased torque and force that happens with a leg or a foot that's further outside your base of support. And the other thing you can see as well, and the angle would be actually better if it was from the side here, but you can kind of see it, is actually this is a lot lower. The center of mass is a lot lower here versus the center of mass is a lot higher here. And again, it comes back to, if you're not quite so strong in deeper degrees of flexion, then you're never going to find them. You're never going to go there when the stress is on. So you can see definitely a lower, more quad, knee dominant flexion here versus here. And that's because he's much stronger through his right side and his left side. So physical qualities always underpin the coordinations and strategies that an athlete will go to. It's just using those strategies and seeing them to maybe microscope and look a little closer at some of the physical qualities that might need development.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. All right, nice. So yeah, so when I watch your video, that's what I'm seeing, right? Like, it just doesn't, you don't want to prepare early. So it's almost like you wait and then you push, rather than push yourself into the cut and start to bring your right leg through a little quicker. Yeah.
Yeah, and look at my look at my legs. Like, I'm pushing on the left side and reaching for the right side to do the other cut exactly afterwards. And I watched the video you have in True Coach with Dan, and I thought about, like, he did it too that way, and I tried to mirror him. But when watching the other video, it makes much more sense to keep both legs underneath my body to be faster with changing directions.
Yep, for sure. Let me stop that.